What if everything you think you know about government grants and procurement in 2026 is already outdated? Not because the programs disappeared, but because the rules underneath them quietly changed while most people were not paying attention. The headlines will tell you about new funding announcements and budget priorities, but the real story in 2026 is buried deeper than that. It is sitting inside compliance updates, contract vehicle revisions, and program notices that most applicants never read. And that gap between those who read them and those who do not is exactly where winners and losers are being separated right now. The people who win government grants and contracts this year are not simply the ones who apply the most. They are the ones who understand what changed before everyone else figures it out. That is exactly what this video is going to show you. The question is whether you are one of them. If you are a business owner, a non-profit leader, a consultant, a startup founder, or someone trying to break into grants or government contracts for the first time, this is built specifically for you. These are not distant changes scheduled for some future date. They are happening right now, in real time, reshaping how funding is awarded and how contracts are won. The agencies are updating their rules, the compliance expectations are shifting, and the window to get ahead of these changes is narrowing fast. If you are serious about staying competitive in 2026, treating this information as optional is not something you can afford to do. The people who will win this year are already paying attention, and if you find them without being compliance ready, your application will not survive the review process. A new category of specialized grant opportunities is quietly emerging, and most people are not watching closely enough to catch them. These are not your traditional broad-based funding programs. Governments are now tying federal assistance directly to targeted, mission-driven initiatives. A strong example of this is the FIFA World Cup-related federal assistance funding structure. As the United States prepares to host the 2026 World Cup, federal dollars are being directed toward infrastructure, public safety, community engagement, and economic development tied specifically to that event. This is not a general open call. It is a focused funding structure with very specific eligibility criteria and compliance requirements baked in from the start. If you are not already tracking these kinds of program-specific opportunities, you are already behind. Preparation is no longer just about getting funded, it is about staying funded. 2026 is not just about new funding being available. It is about entirely new rules governing how that funding is managed, reported, and audited once you receive it. Treasury's 2026 CIPRA revisions are tightening performance measurement requirements across social impact programs. Meanwhile, GSA's proposed Federal Audit Clearinghouse changes are raising the bar on how organizations document and submit their single audit findings. What does this mean in plain terms? It means your internal systems, your financial reporting structures, and your compliance workflows are now just as important as your application itself. Organizations that have not updated their back-end processes are going to find themselves disqualified or flagged during post-award review. The money will be sitting there, available, and they still will not be able to keep it. Now let's talk about the procurement side, because this is where things get really strategic. 2026 is shaping up to be a year of quiet contract advantage, and most businesses have no idea what that means yet. Here is why it matters. Contract vehicles that determine who even gets considered for federal work are shifting right now. Alliant 3 is becoming fully operational. This is one of the largest information technology contract vehicles in the federal government, and its onboarding window directly affects who can compete for billions in upcoming awards. Meanwhile, Oasis Plus is staying continuously open, which sounds like good news, and it is, but only if you understand the evolving compliance requirements attached to it. Entry rules are changing, compliance standards are tightening, and the businesses that quietly prepare now will have a structural advantage over everyone scrambling to catch up later. This is not about luck. This is about positioning. Now layered on top of that are two more procurement developments that deserve serious attention. First, trade agreement thresholds are being revised, which directly affects which contracts require full open competition and which suppliers qualify under specific trade rules. If your business operates internationally or sources materials globally, these threshold shifts change your positioning in ways that are not immediately obvious. Second, semiconductor-related procurement restrictions are tightening. Federal agencies are under increasing pressure to verify supply chain origins, and new restrictions are being written directly into contract requirements. These are not bureaucratic footnotes. They are strategic signals about where federal competition is heading and which businesses will be allowed to compete at all. If you are paying attention now, you are not just staying compliant, you are gaining early intelligence that most of your competitors do not have yet. That gap is where real advantage lives in 2026. That is the standard now. Let me be direct. This is not the year to casually search for grants once a month or check in on procurement opportunities whenever you have a free afternoon. That approach might have worked before, but in 2026, it will cost you real money and real contracts. The landscape is shifting too fast and too quietly for passive attention to be enough. What this year demands is a real, consistent monitoring system, not a bookmark folder, not a newsletter you skim. A structured, repeatable process that tracks opportunities, policy changes, compliance updates, and program shifts across multiple channels and platforms at the same time. The people winning this year are not just the ones applying. They are the ones who built systems that keep them informed before the window even opens. In 2026, that is the difference between being in the room and being left out completely. You need to be monitoring Federal Register notices consistently, not occasionally. You need to be inside grants.gov, looking at agency program pages directly, not just waiting for email alerts. Acquisition.gov should be bookmarked and checked regularly for rule updates and contract vehicle changes. And if you are pursuing state-level opportunities, your state procurement portals are just as critical as any federal source. Here is the warning that most people miss. Some major updates are no longer being surfaced through traditional announcement channels at all. The USDA is a perfect example of this. Certain program guidance and funding shifts have been communicated through internal agency pages and partner networks before ever appearing in a centralized public notice. Your preparation period needs to start much earlier than you think. Proposal writing skill alone is no longer enough to win. Strong writers are losing contracts every single cycle, and the reason is almost always the same. They were not compliance ready before the solicitation even dropped. Think about what that means for your preparation timeline. Most people start getting serious once an opportunity is posted, but by that point, the prepared businesses have already done the work. They have reviewed the regulatory environment, aligned their internal systems, and confirmed their eligibility well in advance. That is not just administrative housekeeping. That is a strategic decision that changes your entire competitive position. So what does being truly ready actually look like in practice? Let us be specific. First, you need to know your thresholds. Federal acquisition regulation threshold changes affect what contracts require full competition, what qualifies for simplified acquisition, and where small business set-asides apply. If those numbers shift and you are not tracking them, you are already behind. Second, contract deviations matter. Agencies issue deviations from standard clauses more frequently now, and missing one can disqualify your proposal entirely. Third, supplier requirements are evolving. Domestic sourcing rules, country of origin restrictions, and approved vendor list updates are changing the baseline for who can even compete. Fourth, supply chain documentation and audit expectations are getting stricter across the board. Agencies want traceability, certifications, and compliance records ready before award, not after. These are not optional checkboxes. They are the new minimum standard for staying in the game in 2026. They are working smarter, earlier, and with far more precision than everyone else. 2026 is not rewarding the loudest applicants or the ones who submit the most proposals. It is rewarding the people who are organized, informed, and early. The money is still out there. The grants are real. The contracts are real. But the landscape has fundamentally shifted, and that shift changes everything about how you need to show up. Grants and contracts are no longer just about applying. They are about intelligence, knowing what is changing before the crowd does. They are about timing, positioning yourself before the window closes. And they are about compliance discipline, having your internal systems ready before the opportunity even appears. The ones who win will be the ones who moved first. The window is open, but it is moving fast. Now here is what I want you to know before you go. There is a full content system built specifically around 2026 grant and procurement opportunities, and it is ready for you right now. We are talking weekly topics, short-form scripts, thumbnail concepts, and viral post angles, all designed to keep you ahead of every shift we talked about today. You do not have to figure this out alone or piece it together from 10 different sources. The system is already built. All you have to do is plug in and stay consistent. Because here is the truth that closes everything out. The money is still out there. But the rules are changing faster than most people realize. New section content.